I'm Vinny Politan. Thank you for joining us here on Closing Arguments. And the other night, I thought we were done. I thought I had turned the page and was completed and had put to bed anything having to do with Brian Laundrie. Brian Laundrie. You remember who he is. Take a look at the pictures. I'll remind you. Yeah. He's the guy who murdered that young woman. He's the one who killed Gabby Petito. He's the one who took her life and pretended in front of everybody else to love her. We had gotten some reports in. We had gotten the final medical examiner report and the autopsy, and it seemed like all the questions had been answered and we had all the information that we needed. But then we noticed something. And we started looking at some of the old video, and I want to show you some of this old video of Brian Laundrie that we have. First, I've got video of him playing ukulele, okay? He's playing right-handed, okay? We've got him playing the ukulele right-handed, okay. Then we have video of him painting. He's painting with his right hand again. There it is. Creating some of his terrible art, but with his right hand. That's the important part. Then when he was on the side of the road, remember the body cam footage? And he was kind of like miming out what had happened. Watch here, and he kind of mimes it out with his right hand. That, oh yeah, I was writing this thing, I was signing. So, okay, so it seems that, okay, I think he was a right-handed, he was a righty. He was right-handed. Then took another look at the medical examiner's report, and the Detective Keller, reported that the decedent's sister, they call him the decedent, I call him the killer. The killer's sister informed that the killer, decedent, was right-hand dominant. So confirmation from his sister that Laundrie is right-handed. Then go back to the autopsy report and the findings that there was evidence of a single perforating gunshot wound entering the left temporal cranium and exiting the right middle, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Entering the left temporal cranium. So that's telling me it's entering the left side of his head. Okay, so here's the question, and this is not necessarily making common sense to me, okay? But I was a prosecutor. I've been on television. I've covered cases. I haven't investigated death scenes. I haven't been to death scenes and tried to put together what happened. But my common sense is like, okay, if he's shot in the left side, but he's right-handed, is that how people commit suicide? Is that how they take their own lives? Is it possible? I'm sure it's possible. Is it common? Let's find out. Let's bring in our investigators. Joining me tonight in San Diego, California, retired director of the San Diego Police Department Crime Lab, Jennifer Shen, and in Jacksonville, Alabama, professor of forensics at Jacksonville State University, forensic media analyst, former senior investigator for the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office, Joseph Scott Morgan, whose podcast, Body Bags, has a new episode dropping tonight, actually breaking down Brian Laundrie's autopsy report. That's why he's on the show, folks. And that's why Jennifer Shen's on the show. Thank you both for being here. Joseph Scott Morgan, I never purport to be an investigator. I haven't been to thousands of death scenes. You have. Is this consistent? A right-handed person committing suicide by shooting themselves on the left side of the head?
The area, good evening, Ben, by the way, and Jen. The area which the entrance wound, where the entrance wound was sustained, the left temporal area, is consistent as far as placement. But, you know, people don't think about this, but you go through your life and you are right-hand dominant, you're going to tend to utilize the same hand, even in committing self-inflicted gunshot wound. And so, yeah, it would give a reasonable person pause, I think, and certainly a reasonable investigator. And then you have to, go from there and say, well, what would have been the rationale for utilizing this particular entrance spot? Why would you shift? Because if you think about, let's say he is right hand dominant and he places the weapon in his right hand, it would mean that he would have had to have wrapped his hand around his body to this point and actuated the trigger. It is, by the way, an interesting weapon. It's kind of a hybrid weapon, unusual. It's an American European Arms Company, I think is the name of it. And it's a 38 Special /357 Magnum, which is it's a revolver. It's kind of odd in and of itself. But back to my point, you would have to actuate the trigger with your thumb. And I've had people do that, over the course of my career. You see a little bit of everything. But as an investigator, I would have to take this a step further. The one inhibiting factor that you have here, though, Ben, you need to be very clear about this, is that there's no longer any soft tissue. They can't appreciate bullet wipe. They can't appreciate soot deposition. So all of that is gone. Those things that kind of bear evidence to that. You're left with, this bony defect. And by the way, his skull was essentially in 26 individual pieces. So it had fragmented, which is common in self-inflicted gunshot wounds like this, particularly when all of the tissue is kind of sloughed away and decomposed and all this sort of thing. Things going to fragment into a bunch of pieces. And it's not just the projectile doing that; it's actually the expanding hot gas. So it creates this kind of blast effect. So it puts the shooter in an odd position in order to facilitate this, and you have to look at the pathway or trajectory of the round as well, because it enters here at this spot, which is going to be forward essentially of the ear. And it's kind of hard to demonstrate this, but it's going to be kind of superior in this area and in the parietal bone, which is this kind of big bone that connects with the temporal bone, runs to the rear, attaches onto the occipital bone, and it exits this way. So you've kind of got a track that tends to be more from left to right, possibly with a slight deviation of below to above at that point in time. That's kind of what they've kind of put together at this point in time. So yeah, and as far as like GSR and those things that folks like the brilliant Jen Shin does, analyzing gunshot residue, you ain't got no hope with that now, because all of the tissue's gone to the hands. That's any kind of residue that was left, that may have been there at one point in time, is all gone. So you can't really verify it, through those means either.
Jennifer Shen, let me ask you your thoughts about this issue, because the conclusion was suicide. Now, people were talking a lot throughout the course of this entire thing, and now you've got a scene that has been extremely compromised, right? So it's difficult to be very precise with other things that are usually available at a suicide scene.
Yeah, that's a really great point. And so I thought, Joseph said a lot of things that were really important, but at the end of the day, you can't always tell how someone held a gun and pulled the trigger. And I've seen a lot of scenes where the method of holding the weapon when someone was shooting either themselves or someone else was not what we would consider normal. And so there is the ability to do things with a gun that make it look different than it actually is. So that's something to keep in mind. And you're right, we don't know the trajectory of the bullet. We don't have, it's got to be really hard to come in with entry and exit wounds when you're dealing with a skull that's been fragmented and there is nothing in there's no flesh wounds to help determine, how close was the gun? Was it a contact wound? All of those things. So there really is nothing here forensically, but I would caution people to rule out that he could have done this some other way than just holding the trigger backwards and using his thumb. So you just have to kind of be open to those things.
Joseph Scott Morgan, you have to, all right, let's talk about who this guy is, right? And who he was. We know he's a killer, number one, but he didn't kill Gabby with a gun. He did it with his own hands. I don't think he was necessarily experienced with guns. Does that play into any of this? Like maybe because you're not experienced, you're holding it with two hands, and maybe that is more of an explanation, whereas maybe, unfortunately, there's a lot of police officer suicides. Officers that are used to handling a weapon might handle it differently. Is that possible? I'm trying to
I would
figure this
say,
out.
yeah, Van, it is possible. But I think counter to your point there, if you're not familiar with weapons, I think that many people would ask the question, well, why not do the thing that's the most comfortable? Why not use your right hand? And that's kind of a default position for anything you do in life. Then, you're going to kind of slip into your comfort zone. And so that's why people will ask questions. You wouldn't believe some of the questions I've gotten over the course of all these months, as I know you have as well. But it is unique. I don't know that it's anything necessarily that's going to raise a red flag. As far as further investigation goes, that's going to be up to the police unless they find some kind of peripheral circumstantial information that might draw this bit of physical evidence back into the microscope, if you will, to say, okay, we've gotten this information now. Let's take a look again at this insult he sustained to his head and see if it marries up with a new story that we have. And I have no idea what that story might be, but that would be on the table. You said at the top of the show, you had mentioned how you thought that this was the last time that we would hear his name and this sort of thing. It's not. It's not going to be. This is going to continue to kind of unravel all the way through. There will always be speculation about this case, and that's the way it is with a lot of suicides. Because most of the time, suicides, and keep in mind in the medical legal world, we handle probably 2 to 1 to 3 to 1 more suicides than we do homicide. The downside with suicides, other than the person taking their life, is the fact that many times they do it in total solitude. And you don't have anything else to kind of hang your hat on intellectually or investigatively. And you're heavily dependent upon the physical evidence. And in this case, in particular, it's greatly compromised because of the harsh environment in which he chose to take his life.
Jen Shen, maybe there's something in that book that was left behind.
Right.
Maybe he wrote something that has them leaning towards, oh, this had to be suicide. Because we haven't seen those pages yet. And I'm wondering if there's something in there that they haven't released publicly that would put them over the edge and make them comfortable and confident that this was suicide and not murder or assisted suicide, where someone else helped him because he was a coward and didn't have the guts to take his own life, so he had to have someone else do it for him.
That's possible, and I can tell you that investigators they look at all the evidence to try to come up with what is this person thinking? What is driving them? And so I'm sure the writings that he had, either the note or in his journal, are going to lead them down that path. I mean, clearly they've already let us know that he, basically said that he killed her. I haven't heard that he said he was going to kill himself, but that they're pretty closed-mouthed about some of these things. So we won't know all of this information until it gets released sometime in the future. And I'm guessing that that's really helping them down the path of a suicide, particularly with a gunshot that's looking a little out of the ordinary in its placement on his head.
Absolutely. Jennifer Shen, Joseph Scott Morgan staying with us.